Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man JRich. Count that money, man. Now wipe the crust out of your eyes. Get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. GMGP, we back in the damn building, baby. What's going down with everybody out there? It is Monday, December the 4th, 2023, and y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray G. Y'all know I appreciate you being in the building. I already see people are going at it. Florida State got hosed. People upset about the Chiefs. Let's overreact about Justin Herbert and Jordan Love. What's happening with you, Rico? Leo Scott in the building. Carson in the building. Hunter Joe Green. What's up with you, Patrick? Terry Wolf, Garrison, Corey, Rubio. What's happening with you, Rubio? I ain't seen you here in a minute. John, what's going on? Say word. Poor little Tank. You better cut it out, man. Don't you be talking about no Tank Dell like that. Jimbo, what's happening with you, Jimbo? We got to talk about it. It says FSU got Rob, Matt in the building, Richie in the building, Kyle, Graphic 13, my Wake Up crew. What's happening? I'm back in the building. I'm feeling good. Cut the music. JRich, been out for a week. My wife and I, we celebrated 7 years of marriage yesterday. So she took me on vacation the week before. We had Thanksgiving. So, you know, a lot of holidays, a lot of celebrations, a lot of vacation, but most importantly, a lot of life. I appreciate every single second of it. Appreciate everybody being in the building this morning. Make sure you tapped into everything Destination Devi is doing. Podcasts, websites popping, Trinity Tracker, War Tool, all types of good stuff cracking at Destination Devi. And last night, halftime of the Chiefs and Packers game, I did put out a updated 2.0 2024 rookie mock draft. So if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. The latest video that we uploaded to the channel. You know, college football is an interesting thing. It's an interesting time in the college football landscapes. Every quarterback hitting the transfer portal. And then we also had the college football playoffs set, locked in. Number 1, Michigan. Number 2, Washington. Texas getting that 3rd seed. And then Alabama, who some people left for dead at the beginning of the season when they were flip-flopping between Milroe and Ty Simpson and Tyler Bachner. Jalen Milroe's the dude. They got that 4th seed. Florida State, undefeated ACC champs. They left them out. Did the committee get it right? Did the committee get it wrong? Listen, I want to see entertaining football. I feel for Florida State. They did every single thing they possibly could have done in order to get a college football playoff berth. But listen, Jordan Travis not in. The team didn't look good versus Louisville. They didn't look good the week before. I'm not saying they didn't deserve it. I think it's quite BS that you can go undefeated, win one of the P5 conference championships, and you did not get in. But I want to see competitive football on New Year's Day, and I think we got the best matchups. I'm looking forward to Texas versus Washington. I'm looking forward to Alabama versus Michigan. There's a lot of good stuff happening in these games. From rookie draft perspective, looking ahead to 2025, I do believe that Quinn Ewers, if he does return to Texas, like all reports are saying, he should be considered the number one, the first favorite to be the first quarterback taken, the first player off of the board in 2025. J.J. McCarthy, it's going to be big for him. You know, one of the things that we talk about, even when we do these mocks, J.J., first-round rookie draft pick. I mean, the dude doesn't throw the damn ball. He doesn't throw the ball. When he does throw it, it looks nice from time to time, but he just has not shown consistent high-level throwing ability. He's going to have to do that versus Alabama because they can score. And then Washington with Michael Penix, Rome Odunze. Everybody is trying to figure out what the hell to do with Michael Penix. So I think that we've got the most entertaining slate of games. Did they get it right? I want to be entertained. Does Florida State have a case? Abso-freaking-lutely. And I'd be pissed off if I were a Florida State fan or a Florida State Seminole. But that's how the chips roll. College Football Playoff Committee is wild. If y'all think this is wild, if you were old enough to be around during the BCS era, that's what I want to bring back. Absolute chaos of the BCS. That was a wild time. But with that, going into 2024, looking at the fantasy landscape right now, Jaden Daniels is going to win the Heisman Trophy. Bo Nix probably lost that in the Pac-12 championship. So Jaden Daniels is going to be one of the quarterbacks that we're talking about being, third, fourth, maybe even second off of the board for Superflex purposes, make sure you tap into that rookie mock. It's going to be an exciting bowl season, but we got a lot of NFL that we got to get to right now because we got a lot of takeaways from week 14 in the NFL season. A lot of takeaways. It's almost a wrap. Let's bring JRich in the building. Jay, how you doing this morning, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm glad you brought up the BCS era because it's very reminiscent of that, right? Going undefeated and still not making the championship game. But that's the era that even I grew up in to some extent. The whole playoff era is still very new for both of us. And this is what happens, man. You lose your starting quarterback. I think reality is, Ray, FSU has a TCU problem, not a committee problem, right? The committee cannot have a team getting blown out in any playoff game again. We saw it happen with Cincinnati. When they were undefeated, they got blown out. We saw it happen to TCU in the finals. So I'm with you. So, but we do have a lot to get to. Week 14 is here. It's almost the fantasy football playoffs. College football playoff is coming soon. But do you want to get into the news? Because you covered everything for the college side.
It's been a minute, man. I just want to say
and happy anniversary.
Yeah.
I knew it was close, but I forgot it was yesterday, so my apologies.
It was yesterday.
And congratulations
it was
to you
yesterday. Not only did you not wish me happy anniversary, you contributed very little to the show sheet today. So let's just get in the news. Pick right back up where we left off. Me carrying the damn show. Let's go.
The biggest news in the world of sports. Covered and brought to you by one man, Jordan Richards. This is Straight Facts.
Why am I on the screen? Why am I on the screen? Why? There you go.
All right, y'all. So we do have a decent amount of news. Right off the top, Derek Carr, another concussion. Should see Jameis Winston in week 14. Don't expect Carr to play this time around. Second concussion in a month for Carr. Do they go forward with Jameis Winston? I don't know. He hasn't played overly well when he has gotten the starting nod, so probably not. But Carr, another concussion. He got hit hard on Sunday, but he will not be playing very likely in week 14. You'll also not see Kenny Pickett, who suffered an ankle injury. Ian Rappaport reported this morning that it's expected to be a tightrope surgery. So we'll see what happens with that. You know, that high ankle sprain, tightrope surgery is usually a 2 to 4 week injury. He is not going to be placed on IR, so Pittsburgh does believe he can still come back, but I don't think we expect to see him for the rest of the season. It's probably going to be Mitch Trubisky. They're probably going to lose a ton of games, and at that point, they'll be out of the playoffs. No point of rushing Kenny Pickett back. We'll see if he even has a job heading into 2024, but for now, Kenny Pickett is not going to be on IR and not going to be playing in games. He's going to be recovering from surgery, which I believe he's going to get today or tomorrow, so he'll be back in a couple of weeks. Whether he plays or not is kind of the next question, but I don't really expect him to, and I wouldn't expect to start him in any of your lineups. Not that you really wanted to anyways. Another guy who will not be playing for you for a little while is Ramondre Stevenson. He has a suspected high ankle sprain, so he's going to miss 2 to 4 weeks as well. Ray, you got the horn on. I mean, the schedule's not good for the Pats anyways, and as a Patriots fan, I am excited. They have the number 2 pick. Bill is doing a phenomenal job. Drake May is in our sights. Don't mess it up, Bill. But Ramondre will be out 2 to 4 weeks with a suspected high ankle sprain, waiting for confirmation on that. Another guy who's going to miss some time is Derrick Henry. He has a concussion. It hasn't been fully diagnosed, not in the protocol yet, but fully expect him to be in the protocol. So he could miss this week, and then we'll see after that. But he should be back for week 15 when I believe he plays the Texans. And I don't know if that game's in Houston. It might be, though. So you're going to be wanting starting Derrick Henry that week against the Houston Texans. You also have Brian Robinson, who suffered a hamstring injury. He could miss multiple weeks. The Washington Commanders are on bye this week, but he may miss week 15 as well, so you could be without B-Rob for the start of the fantasy playoffs. And with all the success he's had this year, you were probably starting him, so you may need to make some other arrangements for the fantasy playoffs if need be, because B-Rob may not be available. We all saw the injury. Tank Dell, fractured fibula, out for the season, going to miss 6 to 8 months. But the good thing is, that's basically right around training camp, right? So training camp usually starts beginning of July. That's about 8 months out. Yeah, fractured fibula, man, 6 to 8 months. But the good thing with these injuries is that if there's no ligament damage and it's just a broken bone, bones heal completely without any limitations. The only limitation is on the player themselves and mentally feeling the comfort to cut and move and operate the same way you always did. We see this a lot with a lot of different fractures. It's more so the comfort of the player than the injury actually being healed. But 6 to 8 months, should fully recover and be fully healthy. We saw this with Jalen Waddle, and he was pretty good in his rookie season. Then you have Amari Cooper as well, who has a concussion. We don't know the extent of his concussion, but he probably going to miss week 14. Man. Christian Watson also suffered a hamstring injury. I'm sure a lot of you saw it watching the game last night. running around the corner, got the first down, kind of went down awkwardly. Another hamstring injury for Christian Watson, so unfortunate for him because he had a phenomenal game and has been having a phenomenal couple of weeks. Finally coming on strong, but another hamstring injury is going to hamper him there. We'll see the extent, probably going to miss at least a week, potentially two, but we'll have to kind of operate as assuming he's out, I'd say, for at least the next couple of weeks and, reevaluate after that. But Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, with the way that Jordan Love is playing right now, you got to be starting them more likely than not. So excited for what the Packers are doing because they've been playing phenomenal football so far.
Whoo-wee, man. Tough break this week, Jay, with some of the injuries to Christian Watson. We all watched that last night as the Packers were closing out the Kansas City Chiefs. And then, a lot of dissension around why the hell was Tank Dell down there in the goal line during a running situation. And I heard the announcer say 5'10", 160. And I'm like, if he's 5'10", I'm 6'8". If he's 5'10", I'm 6'8", because we were standing eye to eye having a conversation. He was smaller than me. So, listen, it's part of the game, man. It's Jay, for me, as I sat back and I got to just watch football, not worry about work, I kept watching. I'm like, why the hell do we even play fantasy football, man? Why do we do this to ourselves? Every play is like it is a literal, you're just praying for your guy to get up. I mean, Henry, they're talking about in the chat. I've never seen him get as hard as he got his ass rocked on Sunday, yesterday.
Yep.
It's hits galore. Every time a player gets tackled, they get up. Tyreek Hill is the new Paul Pierce. Every time he gets tackled, he's going to limp off to the side. Every time. He's going to score you a bunch of points, but he's limping off. It's just, why do we do this to ourselves every week where you're just literally praying your player gets up after a tackle? It's a brutal, violent game, man. It is a violent game, man. I don't know why we. I don't know why we do this.
You talk about it from a fantasy perspective, but just imagine like the actual NFL perspective. It's the same thing, right? Every hit is a car crash, right? Every time someone's down, you're praying they get up because you just never know what can happen on any given play.
To that point, it started making me think, man. And can I just be vulnerable with the people for a minute? I haven't been here, got a lot on my chest that I want to get off. Can I just be vulnerable? I mean, it's very difficult, man. And I think that's why for me, and I've been hinting at this, JRich, and I am very much, I don't think that traditional rankings for Dynasty, I don't think I'm going to do them anymore, man. It is, first of all, the difference between wide receiver 47 and wide receiver 52, nobody gives a shit. Like, nobody cares, right? That's doing nobody any good. Where in reality, man, there are a handful of players who actually truly matter for scoring fantasy. I'm not talking about players you like or we got hope that this guy, Treylon Burks, can. I'm talking about when you put him in the lineup, there's a handful of guys that truly matter, and then a bunch of replaceable players. And what I'm watching, man, is it is a week-to-week game. If your guy is available this week, he's much higher than Aaron Jones or wherever you have Ramondre Stevenson ranked. Right now, Ramondre's out, he's hurt. Where would you rank him in Dynasty? Do you even care? Like, do you even care?
Yeah, that's fair. Do you care is no, right? What can you do for me
this week? What can you do for me right now? I don't care about 3 years from now. I don't care about Jay, I really don't care about the start of next season. I will figure that out in June, July, August. I feel like the volatility of the weekly game is far more actionable than me trying to project and predict who's going to be good 3-4 years from now. Hell, look at Justin Herbert, right? Whatever value was attached to him coming into the season, right or wrong, it has changed in the Dynasty landscape. The way that people value him, the way that people view him, and it means nothing to his long-term stability in Los Angeles, but in this week-to-week game that we play, where it is truly, are you on the field this week, and what can you do for me right now? It feels so different now, man. And it's, what can you do for me in week 14? That's all I kind of care about. What can you do for me in week 14, week 15, and I'm looking at 16. I will deal with 24 when I get there, man. It's just different, man. I feel very strongly about this, Jay, that the traditional 1 through 100 running backs, 1 through 150 wide receiver does nobody any good. Because at the end of the day, that's just personal preference. Your wide receiver 69 versus my wide receiver 77. What good does that do anybody?
Yeah, very, very little, right? And I think you just get to the point where it's, you maybe need 24 running backs. And that feels like a lot, right? For us, we don't roster a lot of running backs, especially the high end ones. You know, you get into the receivers, maybe 24 to 36 matter. Maybe, you know, for quarterbacks, you want to rank close to the whole list. But yeah, it's a pretty shallow number. I'd say 75, 80, maybe 90 players if you want to get deep. But those are the difference makers, right? If you hit on those guys, you're in good shape. And if you miss, you're screwed.
What up, Tater Wolf? Tater Wolf said Dynasty and fantasy are different mindsets. I think it's three. I think it's Dynasty, fantasy football, weekly redraft, and the NFL. It's all three of those things are very different. All three of them are very different. And what it feels like right now in fantasy football, Dynasty as a whole, people don't know what to do. I think that as you, the consumer, you guys tapping into Wake Up, this is not the only fantasy show, fantasy service you subscribe to or look at. I mean, just think about it. Think about how it seems like from site to site, from analyst to analyst, I don't think people truly know, are we playing a weekly game? Are we playing a 2 to 3 year window game? Or are we playing the longest of long-term games? I think it's a very interesting dichotomy going on in the mind of not just gamers, but people who analyze the game, people who who create the content. I think it's a very strange sort of spot that we're in when we're looking at these assets and what to think and what to believe. If I asked you right now, Jay, Austin Eckler Dynasty rank, what would you have him at? Like, you wouldn't even know where to go. Like, just
he wouldn't be in the top 12.
Just where would you rank him right now?
17. Just giving you a random number, middle of the twos.
Okay, and I'm just looking right now, and I'm looking at where Austin Eckler is currently ranked. He's RB17. He's RB17 in between.
Look, nailed it.
Listen,
coming off a great game.
David Montgomery and Tony Pollard. He's ahead of Brian Robinson, Zach Charbonnet, Alvin Kamara, Jalen Warren. Do you want Austin Eckler over any of those guys right now? Give me Kamara over Eckler. You know, right now. Easily. Give me David Montgomery.
Playing awful.
It's just I don't know, man. It's something I've been.
So Ray, it's funny though. As you're saying this stuff, sorry to interrupt you. As you're saying this, what I think I'm getting more. I think the more you're saying this, the more I'm realizing. If you are playing quote unquote Dynasty, you're probably falling behind, right? Because like you're mentioning, is it a week to week game? Is it just straight DFS at this point? Who are we stacking this week? Who are the top matchups, right? Like that's really how it feels. And you should be making moves and trades and picking guys up to anticipate top matchups and all these things. Like it really feels like, I wouldn't go as far to say DFS, but I would say if you are playing quote unquote Dynasty the way we used to play it like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, and you're not playing this week to week market, you are severely falling behind because you're not capturing value when it's at its peak and especially when it's ascending. And then you're not moving guys as they're on the way down as well. So I think you have to look at Dynasty or whatever you want to call it as a week to week game, or maybe like you mentioned, a 3 week game at best, because things change so much. Like if you told people that Austin Eckler was going to be garbage, like for the fantasy playoffs, because he's been playing terrible. He hasn't been doing much of anything, and he's got this great schedule. People wouldn't believe you. They'd be like, no, he's Mr. 20 touchdowns every year. But if you don't adjust to what you've seen, you're screwed. Right. Because even going into this week, you know, like Gene had him in as a sit of the week, laid off all the reasons why. And it's not just the matchup. It's Austin Eckler not playing very well. And so you look at all these things, and if you told someone that at the beginning of the year, they'd say you're crazy. There's no way. Austin Eckler's the best. Start him every week. And so I think that's the thing, is that if you're playing this quote unquote Dynasty game, the long term, and especially if you're rebuilding, whatever, you know, do whatever you want to do. But if you're not and you're contending, it's a week to week game. It has to be. Too much changes week to week.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I do think there's still value in like the top tier players. Like I definitely think that the ones that do matter, the 15 quarterbacks that matter, the 15 running backs that matter, the 20 wide receivers, and the 8 tight ends, you could prioritize those. But deeper as you go, liquidity. Who can I move? Who can I capitalize on? And we'll talk about Tank Dell and his injury as we move through our top takeaways of the week. So I want to start this thing off, Jay, rewinding back to Thursday night. And I want to talk about a player who, in my opinion, there's no quarterback in the NFL playing better football right now than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott right now, in my opinion, is playing the best level of quarterback in the NFL right now. And you look at what Dallas is doing right now, and how they're winning games, and the defense let them down against Seattle, but they don't win that game without Dak Prescott. Getting CeeDee Lamb the ball, making Jake Ferguson look like a top 10, top 5 dynasty tight end asset. He's got a case for the MVP. And in that game, the Cowboys don't beat the Seahawks without Dakota Prescott. And Jay, I just want to get your opinion because we talked about him a couple of weeks ago and his dynasty value and never going to be able to get inside the top 15 again because of his age. And we look at this game and we look at what Dak did, and let's pull it up real quick. Dak Prescott, 29 for 41, 299, 3 touchdowns. And what's the best part about what Dak is doing, in my opinion, Jay, the best part about what Dak is doing is he's running the football. And this is what I said this.
Yes.
I said this a couple of weeks ago. I understand he broke the ankle a couple of years ago, but when players like Dak and Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen are operating at their finest is when they are utilizing their legs as a weapon. And we're seeing him do that right now. The Cowboys are hot. They've got a big game against Philadelphia this Sunday night. But when you look at this team, how bullish are you on Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson moving forward in Dynasty right now?
I think you have to feel pretty good, right? We've talked about many times how Dak Prescott is like the new age Kirk Cousins because he's 30 years old and he's going to put up big numbers. And I think the good thing now is that he's going to get an extension too. There was the concerns. Should he be in Dallas long term? Should they extend him? Blah, blah, blah. That's to bed now. He could throw probably 10 picks the rest of the season. He'd still get re-signed. And talk about MVP odds, plus 300. Who do you think he's tied with, Ray?
Brock Purdy.
He is tied with Brock Purdy at the top of the board right now. Obviously, Brock Purdy just eviscerated the Philadelphia Eagles, Dak Prescott. And we'll get into Brock Purdy as well. But yeah, Dak Prescott right at the top of the board, playing the best football probably of his career. Feel great about them moving forward. CeeDee Lamb obviously balling 100 yards a game at home. Jake Ferguson playing great at home as well. Cowboys, I believe, still averaging 40 points a game at home on the year, which is absolutely absurd. The defense did let them down this past week, but outside of that, in terms of offense and fantasy football production, it's really just the running game. Is the running game ever really going to get to where we hoped it could get? Honestly, I don't really care because Dak is balling, right? And I was kind of out on Dak a few years ago, and maybe Dak had a Kellen Moore problem. And, you know, for a long time, we never thought it could be a Kellen Moore issue. But the way he's playing right now and the way Justin Herbert's playing, maybe there was all of a sudden a Kellen Moore problem. But Dak, Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb, locked and loaded. And honestly, Ray, I'd be starting Brandon Cooks every week, and I do in Scott Fishbowl.
Well, let's talk about the other side. Your boy, you don't like him, but Geno Smith, Monster Day versus Dallas. He came out there and absolutely lit the Cowboys up from start to finish. And the biggest beneficiary of this, Jay, and Jackson Smith and Jigba had a fantastic day, but I don't want to bury the lead. DK Metcalf, Jay. This is somebody that you are a big fan of, Mr. Metcalf. He went out there and just dominant, right? 6 for 134, had Deron Bland, Defensive Player of the Year candidate, on skates from start to finish. I mean, red zone slant touchdown, 70-yard touchdown bomb. Deron Bland was panicking. He was looking for help, scrambling, looking for help because this monster DK Metcalf is just so good. Tyler Lockett was dropping passes. No Kenneth Walker in this matchup. Jackson Smith and Jigba did play well in the game, 7 for 62. But just talk about these two because it seems like that's going to be the pairing of the future. And if you had to stamp one of these guys as the alpha, right, the one that's going to get the primary targets, even though JSN out-targeted DK Metcalf, who would you bank on? DK, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and is Geno Smith going to be there for another couple of years to help make this come to fruition?
So I think that's the biggest problem, right? If I was banking on a player to answer your question, it would be DK Metcalf. And part of it is the air yards, the touchdowns, the high-end targets versus JSN. He's going to have to do it more with the yak, which we know he can do, but it's more of an uphill battle to those fantasy points. When you see DK Metcalf drop 3 touchdowns and well over 100 yards, it's like, yeah, I probably want that guy over JSN, who will volume his way to fantasy relevance, but if he doesn't score, he's probably not going to have a massive game. So definitely I'd be leading Metcalf there. In terms of the quarterback play, though, that's the biggest question mark. Are they going to have Geno? Do I even want them to have Geno? Kind of, because I know the alternative could be much worse. And that's the biggest problem, right? Is if they get a Bo Nix in there, or maybe Michael Penix in the second round, or kind of however they want to navigate this QB situation, it doesn't mean it's going to be better than Geno. Even though Geno's had his ups and downs this year, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better. And so I think that's where it's kind of hard to project who I want going forward, but I'm just betting on the talent, the raw ability. It has to be DK Metcalf. It's why I've continuously gone to bat for him. He just is one of those guys that you want on your fantasy team. He's not always going to be the hyper-targeted guy, but he'll get down the field. He'll score touchdowns. He just has a phenomenal advantage down the field with his size, with his athletic ability, and he wins down the field. And that's why I love Metcalf and why I think he's definitely worth having in fantasy football. You know, you could go down the list of some receivers you may want over him, and honestly, that's because of volume and a bit because of production, but people love DK, and I think he's always available for trade, and I think that's the reason why he's such a good fantasy asset. He's very stable in that regard.
Yeah, people talking about his sign language. It was like the sign was standing on business. That's what he was doing. It was sign language for standing on business, just handling his shit. That's what it was signed for. Last little player I want to talk about, Zach Charbonnet, really quickly, Jay. I'm watching him. I know he got banged up day to day. I don't think he can touch Kenneth Walker. I just don't. I think he's okay. I think he's fine. It's Kenneth Walker's backfield. When he's healthy, Charbonnet's a good complimentary running back, but watching him, I don't think he's a lead back. I just don't. Now, if he's going to get 19 carries, it doesn't matter what I think. You start him because he's getting 19 carries. It doesn't matter what the hell I think. But when Kenneth Walker is available, I do think he's the much better running back in that game. But top takeaway out of that one, Dak Prescott, Jay, and I want to play a little game. I want to play a little game because I like playing games. Games are fun. And we're going to play a little Would You Rather Dak Prescott edition brought to you by the fine people of Keep Trade Cut. So I'm just going to ask you a question right now, moving forward in Dynasty. Jay. Jared Goff, Dak Prescott. Who you got?
Dak Prescott.
Okay. Dak Prescott or Tua Tagovailoa in Dynasty moving forward today.
I'll take Tua.
Okay. Dak or Kyler Murray?
Do I get Marvin Harrison Jr.?
You get Kyler Murray today. You could the idea and the premise
Dak
of
Prescott.
Marvin being there. You could put Marvin there. Yes.
If you get Marv, it's a lot closer. But again, I want CeeDee Lamb. I want Jake Ferguson. I want the offense. I'm taking Dak.
All right. Dak or Anthony Richardson?
I will take Anthony Richardson.
Last one. Dak or Kyler or Dak or Jordan Love?
Oh, I got to take Dak. But Jordan Love has been very good.
Dak
very,
or Brock
very
Purdy?
good.
Dak or Brock Purdy?
I'm taking big cock Brock Purdy,
You're taking
baby.
Brock over Dak, huh?
Yeah, I'm taking Brock. Brock. Love Brock, though. Love Brock.
All right, and in that same game, Jay, we're going to do a little Would You Rather, and this might be a little harder. Wide receiver edition, DK Metcalf on tap, all right? DK Metcalf in Dynasty or Brandon Ayuk?
Ayuk.
DK or Jalen Waddle?
Ooh. I'm going to take DK.
DK or Puka Nacua?
DK.
DK or Devontae Smith?
Ooh. I'm going to say Devontae Smith.
It's
just
tough,
barely.
right?
That's
It's
close.
tough, right?
That's very close.
All right.
Again, it's do I want the 2 or the 1? And it's just barely that 2. It's close, though. Very close.
Last one, and I'm going to combo these. DK or one of these 3 rookies? Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, Jordan Addison.
I want DK over all of them.
All right.
You can make the
ranked
case
lower
for
than all
Tank if
those
you
guys.
want, but yeah.
DK's ranked lower than all those guys right now. So just wanted to say that. All right, Jay. Let's talk about your boy. Let's talk about your boy who had a big, and I mean big time win last night. JRich, pop off because that man, Jordan freaking Love, is just doing it, man. He's just doing it and doing it and doing it well, like LL Cool J said. He is doing it and doing it well. Jordan Love, big win, Sunday Night Football at home against the defending world champs. Jay, it started off a little slow
rocky
for the first-year starter. And the past month, Jordan Love not only looks like a franchise quarterback, he looks like one of them guys where I'm like, damn, man, I wish I had me a little more Jordan Love. It's not always pretty. It's not always clean. It's not always perfect. He is a year 1 starter throwing to Dontavian Wicks, and I like me some Romeo Dobbs and Jaden Reed, but there's no true guy on the outside. He has no tight end of consequence. The running game is putrid. The offensive line, It doesn't.
That's
He does
so
not.
disrespectful to the tight ends. They've been playing pretty good.
I don't give a shit. It's Tucker Kraft. He doesn't have a tight end of consequence yet. Jordan Love, talk about it, man. Another 3-touchdown game, taking care of the ball, can move around. Where are you at? Where are we at with Jordan Love right now? It feels like he's going under the radar and people don't want to talk about him because they're cowards and they don't want to be wrong and say that Love is good and then he turns around and he's bad. People are cowards. They don't want to say it. But talk about it, Jay. Where you at with Jordan Love? Because, listen, OGQ said at the beginning of the year, what did I say, Jay? What did I say? I think he's going to be a lot better than people give him credit for. Did I not say that? Did I not say it for months, Jay? Talk about it, man. Yeah, you did.
So, one thing I'll say, Jordan Love making the namesake proud. So, shout out Jordan Love for that. But the biggest thing, Ray, and why I struggle with Love so much is because we were in, right? First week of the season, we're like, okay, like he's a lot better than we thought. He's going to be good, and it's going to make it happen.
It up for a little bit.
Then the problem is he stunk it up, and we're like, maybe we're out over our skis on Jordan Love. And now he's kind of turning it back, reeling it in a bit. And I do think, Ray, like a lot of the success has come on the back of Christian Watson being healthy. It's his number one receiver. He scored 2 touchdowns yesterday, and it makes a world of a difference.
It does.
You talk about throwing to Dontavian Wicks, throwing to Jaden Reed. We liked both those guys. We saw those guys. I spoke to both of those players. They're great kids. They're great players. But they're not the talent that Christian Watson possesses. And you saw that on his second touchdown. Dude went up and mossed a guy on a ridiculous throw from Jordan Love. Romeo Doubs catching a massive throw down the field, up the seam. Like, when you have all your playmakers, it makes the world of a difference. And Jordan Love is showing that right now. I'm curious to see what he looks like going forward. Because, again, we don't expect Watson to play. But when everyone is healthy, on the same page, Jordan Love has played well. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is that, yes, all quarterbacks are weapon dependent to some degree. But if they're fully healthy in the games we've seen them, Jordan Love has played phenomenally. And some of the throws he's making, there's a lot of QBs in the league that can't make those throws. And that's one of the reasons why from the beginning it was Jordan Love has the arm talent. He has the mobility to be great for fantasy football. And he's shown that. He can run for touchdowns. He does do a bit on the ground. He obviously has ridiculous arm talent when he can reel it in and not throw picks. He will make mistakes. He is a gunslinger at times. But the throws he was making last night, reckless abandon, just chucking it up. And it's like, his receivers like, don't worry, bro. I got you. And they're making plays, and it was unreal to watch. Took a full team effort, but Jordan Love is balling right now. I'm very excited to see that. I definitely would be looking to pick up some shares. Like if you can tear down off a couple guys or, maybe someone isn't sold on certain players. The issue is he's right in that middle range where it's like no one's trading you Kenny Pickett for Jordan Love anymore. Maybe you could do that a few weeks ago, but you can't do that anymore. So he's right in that spot now where you're either a top quarterback or you're not. Do you want to go from Fields to Love? Maybe, but probably not. Can you get Love for your Sam Howell? Probably not. Can you get Love for your Jared Goff? Maybe. But do you even want to make that move, right?
I don't know if I'd do that. I think Love and Goff.
He's in a tough spot. QB 15 on KTC, so he's rising.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. It's like these type of players, you're just happy if you got them. It's like if you got Jordan Love in the offseason at the discounted rate that you got him at, you're happy. I don't know how inclined I am to go buy that now. I would have rather just bought it in the offseason when nobody believed, and then I'm able to reap the benefit of it now. I don't know what I don't think I'd be tearing off of Jared Goff to get Jordan Love. If I can move Sam Howell for Jordan Love, sure. If I can move, who was the first name that you said?
It was Pickett, but Pickett's hurt now, and he's way below him, right? Russell Wilson way below him in rankings.
Let me ask you this. Would you trade Bryce Young for Jordan Love?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I wouldn't even think a second. But honestly, Ray, I don't think you're making that move. Like, I don't think anyone's making that trade with you. If you offer someone your Bryce Young for their Jordan Love, there's no way in hell they're saying yes.
Well, let's talk about the game. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, what a letdown, man. I mean, good Lord.
He hasn't been very good.
I'll just say this,
the team hasn't been very good either.
I will say this. In my opinion, Jay, let me get this off. I don't want this misconstrued for you. I'll take the heat when I'm dead wrong on this one. This team looks tired, bro. Like it looks like watching them. It just looks tired. As great as Mahomes is, and I believe he's the best quarterback and top 3 player in the NFL. He can't do it by himself week in and week out. He just can't. And at some point, Travis Kelce murdering defenses, and that's all they need. Like that, it's not going to work anymore. It's not going to be just. I mean, and you're looking at it, man. Are we witnessing the decline of Kelce? Not from a week-to-week standpoint, because you know he could pop off, but consistently every single week we're used to Kelce smashing, and he had 81 yards. There's 5 targets for Travis Kelce. 5.
Yeah,
Jay, 5, and one of them, I believe they counted that damn end zone Hail Mary as a target, which really wasn't no target, but he needs some help. Run Pacheco. Run him. Get him some weapons you can't just have. And I don't want to get into the game because I think the last 3 minutes was one of the worst officiated games that we had seen played. But MVS, Richie James, get Sky Moore the hell up. Blast him into the sun. But he stopped running.
Terrible.
That interception, mid-route, he stopped running. And it's picked off by Keyshawn Nixon. Rashee Rice looks good. I think they've got something promising there. Is he a one? I don't know, Jay.
No. He's Juju, right? He took Juju's role and he's running with it, right? I think that's the best way to put it.
He looks good. He looks like a good player, but damn, man, they just look tired offensively. They can't do anything in the passing game. And it sounds crazy, but I don't have that same level of confidence when they've got the ball in a minute. They had the ball with 1:15 left. I was like, ain't no way they're scoring. Now they should have been at the 4-yard line with a PI, but absent that, there was no way for them to move the ball downfield. Talk about this Kansas City team. And Jay, we said this before, man. There are rumors that this is it for Kelce. Rumors, Jay.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
There are rumors.
Did we start those rumors?
Jason Kelce already said, I'm done after this year. Kelce's, they go to Canton together. They read each other's induction speeches into the Hall of Fame. He can go make more money being Taylor Swift's man, side piece, whatever the hell he is, right?
Backup dancer.
Whatever he is. Kansas City, talk about it, man.
So I think, Ray, this is the problem with Kansas City, right? They made the choice to get rid of Tyreek Hill. Okay, fine. But they've been flirting with disaster for the past couple of years. And this is, like you said, finally rearing its ugly head. There's only so many times Mahomes can bail you out. There's only so many times he can make the big play. And he had to make a couple of really big plays yesterday. So you look at what's happening now, and they're young at receiver, or they have bad receivers in the case of a Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They bring in a Richie James who has some talent and has seen success, but can't seem to get on the field in Kansas City. I feel like almost there's, whether it's the scheme or the system or whatever it is, these younger players that clearly have talent, whether it's a Richie James or even Mecole Hardman, like, why are these guys not on the field? And Mecole Hardman may have been hurt. I didn't see much of that game.
IR, but I
think he's hurt.
They don't have no young players, man.
They don't have anybody. They don't have anybody that can make a play. And that's the biggest thing is that, like, you look at who they get the ball to, it's Sky Moore, it's Rashee Rice, it's Travis Kelce, and MVS gets his deep targets here and there. It's just terrible. And I think there's only so many years you can go about doing the same thing and it keep working. Eventually, defense is going to figure out how to stop you. Right. And it seems like we've seen that happen, right? Ever since KC played Denver, they've had problems. And that was the first game that Kelce got shut down by Denver. Now, all of a sudden, every week, he's not playing overly well. They can't get him the ball as easily. It seems like Denver and that defense figured out how to stop Kansas City, and every other defensive coordinator took notice, and now every week they're struggling. I think that's the biggest problem, right? You look at what happened this past game. They played all right. There was plays to be made. Some plays were made. Some flags obviously were atrocious or were not thrown. But once again, back-to-back weeks, and we didn't even do a show last week, they need to get the ball to Isaiah Pacheco even more. They gave him 18 carries, 110 yards, and once again, you could see it in the offense. Their best asset was Isaiah Pacheco.
He needs to dial it back. He needs some out. He is just too amped up. Like, crazy. Calm down, dude. Why are you throwing punches? Like, calm down, bro. Like, what are you doing, man? Sorry. Go ahead.
No, but I think that's the biggest takeaway is, like, you have Mahomes, sure, but when your best asset is the running game, like, they still could have used it more because they probably would have had more success, but they got a little bit down early in the game, and that was part of their struggles. But Pacheco having 110, 6 a carry, and a touchdown, how are you not getting him the ball even more when you can't get the ball to any of these receivers? And, maybe they need another running back to help, augment the running game even more, but it just seems like they could still run the ball more.
It's clear, Jay. They need wide receiver help. And Alex said they thought Mahomes and some Jags was enough. Worked last year. Yeah, it's not working this year. The Chiefs are 8-4. Jay, I'll be on Bleacher Report later today, ranking my top 10 teams. they're going to be like 8 or 9. I just don't.
Yeah.
Defensively, that team is phenomenal. Patrick Mahomes, great. They need more weapons. I do not think they have enough. Maybe to get through some of the AFC, but after watching San Francisco, looking at what Dallas, like, no way, man. They need receivers. And this is a great year to be in the business of needing a wide receiver. So hopefully they get things right with that one, Jay. And that leads us to the third big talking point that we have on this show. Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers, Jay. What do I like to say? Put foot. I mean, absolute foot.
With the boot on.
Go talk about, just run through the stats as I pull this picture up, man, because this is funny stuff. We gotta show this. I gotta show this. Go ahead, Jay.
So we got the San Francisco 49ers absolutely beating down the Philadelphia Eagles 42-19. As you mentioned, Ray, Brock Purdy, 19 for 27, 314 yards and 4 touchdowns, 148.8 rating out of 153. Christian McCaffrey still had his 17 for 93 and a touchdown.
That's what
and Ray,
to him right there. There we go over there, Cowboys Nation, watching those the most obnoxious fan base in sports, the Philadelphia fan base, getting their head blown off by San Francisco. And there we go. We just watching, laugh. It ain't about us. We got foot put in us, and then we went on a run after that. Philly, y'all got us next week. Man, I can't stand the Eagles fan base. Just ridiculous getting foot put in them. Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, Eagles fans and Cowboys fans are like the Spider-Man meme of the worst fan bases in the NFL, just pointing at each other.
Here in Texas, Southern gentlemen.
But yeah, Deebo Samuel, 3 touchdowns, 130 yards combined, rushing and receiving. Also had 4 for 116 through the air. Dude was phenomenal. George Kittle was great. Brandon Ayuk scored. Jawan Jennings even flexing a little bit after his big touchdown as well. Eagles couldn't stop him. And this is the biggest problem with the Eagles. We've talked about it all year. They cannot stop the pass. And Ray, give me a number for Dak Prescott next week.
Oh, he's going for
I'm going
bills.
400. I'm going 400.
He's going over 3 bills.
400 plus.
He's going over 3 bills on him.
And against the Eagles, they ain't stopping throwing the ball.
At home,
they're not letting up.
Bills. 3 bills. 3 bills locking in. But let's talk about Brock. That's what I want to talk about. Brock Purdy. This man, so Jay, I don't know what he has
MVP
to do
front
in order for people to be like, yeah, he's probably pretty good, Jay. But right now, he's valued as QB 13. Another
crazy.
Whatever you want to call. What do you want to call people? Oh, he just manage the offense, whatever you want to call it. The San Francisco 49ers, Jay, was the score of that game 42-19. Brock Purdy, 314, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, took a couple of sacks, but got the ball to his playmakers. Talk about Brock, man, and how we should, or people should, value him in Dynasty. Here's my question. Here's the setup to it. Do you believe that Kyle Shanahan is like a long tenure type head coach in San Francisco? Is he going to be there like Mike Tomlin is in Pittsburgh? I'm not going to say as long as Bill was in New England, but is he going to be a 10-year coach in San Francisco?
I think so, yeah. I think he really will, because you look at what happened.
If he's going to be there, Jay, how are we not higher on Purdy? I don't give a damn. And we talked about this at the beginning of the show, right? And this is very important, Jay, because we keep talking about NFL versus fantasy football versus dynasty fantasy football. If we believe that Kyle Shanahan is going to be there, long for the wear, San Francisco's going to have the same scheme, I don't care how good you think he is in real life, head-to-head against Josh Allen. I don't think he's better than them. If we're talking just fantasy football, why would you not want the guy that's in the offense that it makes everything easy for the quarterback, and you can get your 3-4 touchdowns, 200 to 300 yards in an efficient way? Why would you not want him over the hopium of Anthony Richardson or Trevor Lawrence? Why would you want? Tell me, what about T-Law for fantasy makes you want him over Brock Purdy?
Zero. Absolutely zero.
No,
there's no reason.
I don't need you
no
to
reason
agree.
at all. It's crazy.
Give me
it's
some.
Crazy.
Why
Zero.
Would
maybe
you?
he's a little bit better of a rusher? That's it. Yeah, because he vultures all of Travis Etienne's touchdowns now. So go ahead and take your Trevor Lawrence, but literally there's no reason. Kyle Shanahan's going to be the head coach. Clearly, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan are a great marriage in San Francisco. They really helped add stability to that organization if they kept firing head coaches every single year. And there's no way, like, bro, this team is ridiculous. They have the best team in the NFL. They probably have the best roster in the NFL. They have the most cap space in the NFL. Like, what more do these guys need to do to optimize a roster? Yes, of course, down the line, Christian McCaffrey's going to retire at some point. Deebo Samuel's probably going to be out of San Francisco eventually. But for the foreseeable future, it's Brock Purdy, it's Brandon Ayuk, it's Deebo Samuel, it's George Kittle, it's Christian McCaffrey. It's one of the best and most efficient offenses in the NFL. There is no reason not to want him. And this has been the reasoning from the very beginning. Go back as far as you want to go back. My point has always been, we have been waiting. We have been hunting. We have been searching for the San Francisco 49ers quarterback. We've been waiting for this moment. It's been here in front of us for months, for weeks. Almost a year now, Brock Purdy's been the starting quarterback of the 49ers, and he's been great every single week. I believe he's first in EPA per play, yards per completion, all this stuff.
No one's even relaxed and enjoy the show. Good Lord, man. We're joking. We're having a good time on Monday, and he is just... Cowboys, Eagles, relax, man. Damn, go ahead, Jay.
What just happened?
Good Lord. I mean, I can't even read the comments.
It's crazy. But Purdy's phenomenal. I think the biggest problem, Ray, is how do you go about acquiring Purdy right now? And do you acquire him? Because for me, he's a guy that I've held on to, and I have been dug in. I'm holding Purdy. I'm not trading him. And it's paid off. But I don't know if I'd be trading for him now either. Like, if someone's asking me for 2 firsts for my Brock Purdy, I'd probably be like, I'm good. Right? But you could get probably 2 firsts still for Trevor Lawrence, which is wild because I don't want to pay that for Trevor Lawrence either.
Listen, I'm just asking the question, man. All he does is go out there every week when he's got his people, right? And all he needs is everyone needs the damn. When you don't have weapons, you get Patrick Mahomes. How's that going for us with no weapons? Great quarterback, no weapons. How's that? Lowest, I think I saw the stat, Jay, lowest yards per game, yards per attempt, all of his career happening right now because he doesn't have people. Everybody needs somebody. Like in life, we all need somebody, baby. We all need somebody. You can be the biggest Mack truck there is. You need weapons. And, right now you look at San Francisco, these weapons are phenomenal. The scheme is great. Brock Purdy's doing his thing. And you said right there tied with Dak Prescott for NFL MVP, second best odds?
3,200 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 picks, number 1 in QBR at 70.6. He's going to end the year with 4,000 yards and probably 30 touchdowns. And we're like, I don't know about that guy.
No one's saying that Anthony Richardson's not good or can't be good or Trevor Lawrence. It's just the way that we treat them in fantasy is T-Law is way up here, Purdy way down there. And that's not the case. And that's all we're trying to bring is some objectivity to this. It's not the case. Regardless of what you think about him, regardless of where he was drafted, the gap and the delta between the two for fantasy football should not be as far apart as it currently is, Jay. That's just my take, man. That's just my take on the Brock Purdy situation. As long as Shanahan is there, as long as the scheme is in place, as long as the weapons are there, I'm in.
His yards per completion is a yard higher than Tua. A yard higher than Tua, who's second.
But it's the system. He stinks.
It's crazy. Jared Goff is 7.6 at 6th overall, Ray. 7.6 for Jared Goff. He's 6th in the league. Brock Purdy's at 9.6. 2 whole yards per completion higher than Jared Goff, who's 6th on the list.
We haven't even talked about Philly, Jay. The Eagles. Jalen Hurts. 300 passing, 1 touchdown, scored on the ground. DeAndre Swift didn't do anything. Brown and Smitty were cold in that game. Slim Reaper dope. Yeah. A.J. Brown dope. The 2 target earners right there. What's going on in Philly? Like, just watching them, what's your takeaway from watching the Eagles? Was this just because I do still think that offensively, when you've got a Hurts, when you've got an A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, they're going to get Dallas Goedert back soon. You still have a talented cast of offensive players. Defensively, we know that they have struggled against the pass mightily. They actually got beat up on the ground this game, and it was very, very surprising to see Philly get out physical at the line of scrimmage the way that they did last night. But where are you at moving forward with these guys? With Hurts, with Brown, with Smith? I'm not worried about them from a fantasy perspective at all. And if the defense is so bad and they're going to give up points, that should yield some positive correlation for us, at least from those wide receivers and Jalen Hurts. Any big takeaway for you from a fantasy perspective? Because Hurts still did his thing for you. A.J. Brown was good. Devontae Smith was good. I think they just got foot put in them, man. You can't win every game. I think they just got foot put in them.
Yeah, right. You hit the nail on the head. I think the only concern really is DeAndre Swift. And can we start him week in and week out? I don't know, because it seems like these games are going to happen to the Eagles. And if they get out of, you're going to start him every week still?
Jalen Hurts?
You're going to start him this week? No, DeAndre Swift.
Swift, excuse me. You probably, at this point, Jay, you probably
seems
have
like you may not want to.
Who else am I going to start? Who? DeMarcado, who gets hurt every week?
He only had 8 touches in the game.
I think that the script got away from him, man. The game got away from him after that first.
But this is
quarter.
what happens to Philly. That's the problem, right? When they fall behind in games a lot, and they need Jalen Hurts to bring them back. And that happened, against Buffalo, and he was still okay. But this week against San Francisco, no shot, right? But yeah, you're starting Hurts, starting Brown, starting Smith. I think my biggest takeaway from Philly this whole season, they had the best coaching staff in the league last year, and I don't even think it's particularly close. And you look at what's happening to them this year, you lose Shane Steichen. Oh, Jonathan Gannon's an idiot. What is he doing at this press conferences? What is he doing here, doing there? He's coaching phenomenally in Arizona right now. Shane Steichen is leading Gardner Minshew to look like a top 12 quarterback in the NFL. Like, losing those guys matters, right? And I think we'll have to have the conversation, Ray, when Ben Johnson leaves. What do we do with Jared Goff and some of those other guys in Detroit? Because clearly it matters. The offense is not as good because Shane Steichen left, and that's very clear. It has been from the beginning. Jonathan Gannon leaves on defense. They haven't been as good. It's very clear. Very, very clear. And it shows every single week. And against Dallas this week, they're probably going to allow 40 again.
We'll see. Fantasy-wise, again, A.J. Brown, no concerns. Devontae Smith, dope. Hurts going to do what he can do. And DeAndre Swift should be better. He should be better, right? Chris McCaffrey, no need to talk about him. Debo balled out. Ayuk, little down game, got us a touchdown. But had a lot of Ayuk over 62.5 yards that did not cash. But yeah, San Francisco, best team in the NFL, in my opinion. Best team in the NFL. And Slim Reaper, proving my point that the Philadelphia Eagles, let me double down, the most annoying fan base that we can even think about coming to fruition right now on Wake Up. Annoying. Let's move on, Jay, to talk about the 2023 running back class. And I want to talk about Bijan Robinson, Jahmry Gibbs. Let's revisit this conversation, all right? Let's start with the Lions and Jahmry Gibbs. Lions were in a dogfight, Jay. Lions were in a dogfight versus the Saints.
Let them back in, yeah. That was rough.
We let them back in. We let them off the hook, right? Lions ended up beating the Saints 33-18. They find a way to win the game. I'm watching it, man. Jared Goff kind of operating pretty chill. Sam Laporta, Jay, my goodness. You want to talk about Sam Laporta real quick?
Sam Laporta, 9 for 140 and a touchdown. Sammy ball game is back, baby. It's been a while. Sam Laporta's been a little quiet, but he's back. And against this Saints team that has been pretty good against tight ends over the past 2 seasons, it's been great. But yeah, Sammy ball game is back and came with the expense of Amon-Ra St. Brown, the only player, Ray, with more than 2 receptions in this game. Amon-Ra was the only player other than Sam Laporta who had more than 1 reception. Now, Amon-Ra did have 6 targets, but only converted on 2 of those. But Laporta, 9 for 9, 140, and a touchdown. Top 10 player in fantasy this week. Absolutely destroyed the Saints. It was crazy.
Jahmry Gibbs looked good, Jay. And I'm watching the game. Dude. He looks very fast, Jay. There's no scientific or super smart way to say that. He looks very fast. Every time I'm watching, I'm like, damn, he's just shot out of a freaking cannon every single week. And I saw some people kind of talking about redrafting the 2023 class. Would it be crazy to say that you would prefer right now, moving forward, Jahmry Gibbs over Bijan Robinson in Dynasty? Is that wild to say that you would rather have? And here's the case, man. I'm looking at Atlanta, Jay, and the problem is they won. They won again.
This has been the problem all year for Atlanta.
This is the problem with Atlanta. They've won, and I believe right now they're projected to pick like 18, 19 in the NFL draft.
1 second.
They're not going to be in the range to get Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams. Not happening. Hell, if Michael Penix balls out in the college football playoffs, they're not getting him either. Who do they bring in at quarterback next year, Jay? Who can the Falcons bring in at quarterback next year to revamp this. Don't give me no Kirk Cousins. Damn sure don't say Justin Fields. It's not going to be Kyler Murray. Who are they going to bring in that can help revitalize this offense? Because they're going to win at least. What's Atlanta's schedule, man? Are they going to get 2 more wins? Can they get?
Yeah, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL. Let me give you their schedule: Tampa Bay, Carolina, Indianapolis, Chicago, and New Orleans again.
Shit, like they might win 3 or 4.
They could beat Tampa. They can definitely beat Carolina. Indy, we'll see. They've been playing all right, but they allow a ton of points. Chicago, everyone can beat Chicago. We all know this. And then they already beat New Orleans. So they definitely have 2 of the next 5 games could be wins, end the season 8-9, and make the playoffs. Because right now, Ray, they're in the playoffs, which is crazy. But the Atlanta Falcons, easiest schedule in the NFL. And that's the whole reason why there's no reason for Arthur Smith to get fired, because he keeps winning games. Doesn't matter if Desmond Ridder goes 2 for 30 or 2 for 50. They're still going to get the ball to their playmakers. They're still making plays. They're still playing good on defense. And they have a soft schedule.
He didn't fumble. Well, he fumbled, but he recovered it. But no interceptions. Was sacked a couple of times. He threw for 121 yards. Tim Boyle threw for more. Bijan, 18 for 53, 3 catches, 26 yards. You just watch the offense. The O-line ain't blocking. Bijan looks tired. Maybe it's the rookie wall. I'm watching them because they're playing simultaneously, and Gibbs just looked way more. He just looked. Maybe the offense is better, so he just looks better.
Maybe the offense is better.
I'm coming up with excuses here. But just looking at these 2 running backs, Jay, if you had to pick one right now, Dynasty, whatever the fuck that means, 5 weeks left, next season, 5 years from now, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, where are you at with these 2, man?
So the only reason why you take Bijan, and I still think I kind of lean Gibbs, is the touches. He got 21 touches this past game. 21 touches. And 21 touches means that's the running back you probably want, because there's not a lot of running backs that are going to get 21 touches. But if Gibbs is going to be just as efficient on his 13 touches with way higher touchdown upside, you probably want Jahmyr Gibbs. But I think the difference between when we had this conversation a few weeks ago and now is now Bijan is getting the touches, so you probably want Bijan. But, I do kind of lean Gibbs because of the offense. And the thing is that if you are trading for Bijan now, though, you're trading under the assumption the offense gets better. And I don't hate that bet, because it should get better at some point. They can't be this bad forever, in the same way the Jets can't be the worst team in the NFL on offense forever either.
Oh, man, he got the touches. The other side of the ball, Breece Hall, again, nothing on the ground. They just can't run the ball. They can't block. They don't have a quarterback. It's a mess. Now it's rumored and reported Aaron Rodgers going to miss the season. He was never going to play from a freaking torn Achilles in 6 weeks. It just wasn't going to happen. I think the big takeaway from me, Jay, in this game is just how we all, every last one of us, I don't care who you're a fan of, Cowboys, Eagles, Niners, Raiders, doesn't matter. We were robbed of a Garrett Wilson elite season. This young
100%.
man
100%.
is so freaking good, Jay. 3 for 50, not a big statistical game, but if you watched 2 of the 3 catches, only Garrett Wilson and a handful of other people in the entire world could do what he just did. It's just we were robbed of a special potential season from Garrett Wilson. I don't know what it would cost to acquire him in Dynasty, what you would have to give up, to tear down. I want me some Garrett Wilson, Jay. He is phenomenal, dude. Phenomenal player. And what's so unfortunate about this Jets situation is this is 2 years that we've kind of wasted Breece Hall. And if you had Breece Hall this year, yes, we had some big games, some nice moments. But now you've got a year 3 running back that did suffer an ACL tear. And you know how it is in Dynasty. 3-year, 4-year spot. You're looking to move off of some running backs because of that. It's just unfortunate that this is what's happened this season with this team and the expectations around them. And they won a couple of games that they probably shouldn't have, because they could have even picked higher to buy, to get some protection for Aaron Rodgers, to maybe get another dynamic playmaker to pair alongside Garrett Wilson when Rodgers returns next year. It's just unfortunate. The Atlanta side, Kyle Pitts did get involved, so that should be positive and optimistic. 4 for 51. Drake London did nothing. It's going to be a London
big game for Kyle Pitts.
Can't be both.
Yeah.
Can't be both. But this is like worst case scenario for Atlanta, that they keep winning. They're pushing themselves out of that elite quarterback range. And it really is sort of neutralizing, I guess, what we want to get out of Bijan Robinson. It's unfortunate. And we didn't even talk about the Lions. Let's go back to talk about Jahmry Gibbs, the Lions, and the Saints, Jay. Amon-Ra scored a touchdown, didn't do much else in that game, but he did score us a touchdown in that one. You talked about Big Sam Laporta, how good that he was on the Saints side of the ball. Chris Olave just dominated, man. Chris Olave, player that I was very wrong about in 2022. I wasn't the biggest fan of him coming out of Ohio State, but he has definitely proven me wrong 1,000 times over. Coming off the concussion, 119 yards. Kamara did his thing in the receiving game. No Derek Carr. Now it's going to be a combination of Jameis Winston, some Taysom Hill. Saints are cooked, man. Saints are cooked. 5-7.
Cooked?
Yeah, I think they're.
Want to go through the schedule?
Somebody's got to win the South, and it's not going to be Carolina. Right, it's not going to be Tampa Bay. So it's either going to be the Saints or the freaking Falcons. Which, and the sad part is, they get to host a home playoff game. They're going to be sub 500 and hosting a damn home playoff game. Go ahead, give me the schedule.
Carolina at home.
Win.
Giants at home.
Oh, no, man. The Italian stallion, man. But we'll just say win. I like me some DeVito, some Danny DeVito, man. Who's next?
Rams on the road.
Yeah, they lose that.
Rams played well this week. Finally.
They lose that one.
Bucks on the road.
They
could win that game.
Mid-off. Who knows?
Atlanta at home to end the season.
For all the marbles.
For all the division, yeah.
Yeah, to be 7-10 for all the marbles right there. Who else?
That's it. That's 5 games. Carolina, the Giants, the Rams, Bucks, and Falcons. And to your point, just like Atlanta, they could win 3 of those games pretty easily. Both got Carolina on the schedule. Both have the Bucks on the schedule. Ridiculous.
Chad said, cue the Benny Hill music for the NFC South. Absolutely. Cue it. Cue the music, Chad.
They're only one game behind the Falcons right now. But the Bucks are also 5-7. So
hey, what about J-Mo? You got any interest in J-Mo? 1 catch, 1 rush, 1 touchdown. He was fast.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. He was fast. But until he starts getting consistent work, then I don't want him. Again, right, best ball, sure, but lineup, there's just no way. There's no way.
We're going to switch gears, and we're going to go to a game that was not particularly entertaining, but has one of the highest ascending young dynasty players in the game. So we're going to pivot, Jay, and talk about the weather-delayed Pittsburgh-Arizona game. That was a long weather delay in that one. Arizona won 24-10. You talked about Kenny Pickett, being knocked out of that game. Yep. Arizona, they're just helping the New England Patriots out. They won a game that they didn't need to win. They didn't need to win the game. Arizona 10-3 now. They drop a spot in the projected draft standings. James Conner, big, massive day, Jay. 25 carries, 105 yards, 2 freaking touchdowns. Conner was good, and he got to do it versus his old team. Kyler Murray didn't do much in this one, but I don't blame Kyler. I mean, the game was starting and stopping left and right, and the rhythm and the flow was off. But I want to talk about Trey McBride, Jay. My goodness. 8 for 89. He scored a touchdown. They called it back. Very next play, they threw it right back to him. Touchdown. Talk about Trey McBride. And for me, I said this a month ago. We were in the Destination Devy Discord, patreon.com/allgas. And it was the Trades in 5 crew with Scott and Shane, and they were talking. And they were like, who would you take over Kyle Pitts? And this was a month ago. I'm like, give me Trey McBride over Kyle Pitts pretty easy. Mm-hmm. He's a top 5 Dynasty tight end, Jay. The only tight ends that I would want in Dynasty over Trey McBride right now, Sam Laporta.
Okay.
TJ Hawkinson. Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews is up there, yeah.
That's it for me. That's it.
Wow. You missed Mr. Kelsey. Mr. Pfizer.
Absolutely not. Stop. Absolutely not. I'm not taking Travis. I'm not taking.
So
Travis
you said
Kelsey.
Laporta, Hawkinson, Andrews, no Kincaid. Did I miss Kincaid?
No. What's the difference? I'd rather. I would never give up Trey McBride to go get Kincaid. I think they're 2 of the same player, and I'd actually prefer.
Would you lean on the quarterback though? Because again, right now McBride has nobody. Because even Marquise Brown hardly did anything in this game. I'm talking about target comp. If he has Marv, It's a little different.
What did Kyler do? What did Kyler do when he got Zach Ertz and Hopkins? He just fed Zach Ertz. I'm not worried about target competition, none of that. I think McBride is the real deal. He's the truth. I told people about this before the season started. Get you some Trey McBride. Where are you at? I mean, where's he? I don't know where he's at on KTC, but there aren't 5 tight ends I'd take over Trey McBride right now.
So he is 6, right? Tight end 1, Sammy Ballgame, Sam Laporta, Hawkinson at 2, Kincaid, Andrews, Kelsey, McBride. Then, of course, you have Pitts, Kittle, Ferg, Freiermuth, Komet, and Goddard to round out your top 12. I'm with you. I love Trey McBride. I drafted Trey McBride in a couple of our leagues over the summer because I was in, like you were, on the potential and upside that we saw last season working its way into this season. Obviously, he had a Zach Ertz problem to start the year. They got rid of Zach Ertz. And what do you know? Trey McBride is awesome once again. The same thing we saw last season when Ertz got hurt. McBride went off. And so I think going forward, now we have the certainty that Ertz is not on the roster, and we will have full McBride for the rest of the year. He's probably going to be a top 5 tight end. He's going to get the targets. Arizona's not going to be favored in a lot of games, probably down in a lot of games. McBride's going to be awesome. Tight ends, I take over him. I'm with you. If you want to take him over Kelsey, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it either. I think it's to your point. If you could move your Kelsey for McBride, great move, because he'd probably be just as productive, and you have him for the foreseeable future. Andrews, I kind of like Andrews there. I don't mind if you prefer Kincaid. I like Kincaid a lot as well. And then Hawk and Laporte, I would definitely take over McBride, but he's right there in the thick of it. I think the only guy you can make the case for, Ray, is do you want Trey McBride or your boy, Jake Ferguson?
Yeah, I'd take McBride over Ferguson, but Ferg is dope. Okay. And
great.
Drew, I hear you. He said, let's be real. Tight ends are garbage. Yeah, but when you've got one that can go out there and get 6, 7, 8 catches, red zone target, those are the ones. Those are the ones that I want. I want the McBrides. I want the tight ends that operate within those offenses that yield fantasy points for the position. Dallas does it.
Yep.
Doesn't matter who it is. Jason Witten, Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz, step it up, Jake Ferguson. Kyler Murray has done this. And if people think it's just a Arizona thing, go look at, there's a name, Jay, that the Devi community may remember. You probably don't. Austin Stogner and those guys. That's what Kyler Murray was throwing to at Oklahoma. Like, he feeds the tight end position. Give me tight ends with Kyler Murray. Give me tight ends with Dak Prescott. I think he's a top 5 dude and one of the few tight ends that are actually mattering for us in fantasy football, unlike a bunch of other guys, right? On the other side of the ball, Warren, Najee Harris. Najee's played better, Jay. People have really ripped him, and Jaylen Warren, there's no doubt he shows more explosive nature in his running style. No doubt. Harris hasn't been bad. Harris has not been bad. No, he's a grinder.
And they have a great schedule.
Yeah, he's got a good schedule coming up. And with Kenny Pickett being hurt, Mitchell Trubisky in, I do think that you should see, I know it sounds crazy. I think Mitch may open this joint up a little bit more than Kenny Pickett. Not saying he's better than KP, but Mitch has been there, done that, man. What can they do to Mitch that hadn't been done before? You gonna pull me and bench me?
Nothing.
That's fine by me. Mitch gonna open it up, throw it deep, even in limited time. He had 117 yards, touchdown to Deontay Johnson. It may open up some running lanes for Pittsburgh. I don't think this is a very good team offensively. Pickens, Johnson, you're starting them and you're praying for a bunch of touches, some touchdowns. Trubisky may open it up just a little bit there, but I didn't have a lot more to take away from that one, Jay. I do want to talk about one of the most underrated wide receiver, Jay, in fantasy football that I think is an absolute star. I think he's an absolute star, Jay. Who is it? Who am I talking about, Jay?
You're talking about your alumni member, Mr. Michael Pittman Jr.
Yes,
Michael Pittman Jr. was obviously phenomenal this week. He just put the team on his back in overtime to beat the Tennessee Titans 31-28. Gardner Minshew fed him the ball early and often. 16 targets, 11 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. Michael Pittman has been quietly getting a ton of targets and a ton of yards this season. Right? I'm not sure if you even know this. He has 87 receptions for 889 yards and 4 touchdowns. Only 10.2 a reception, but still tons of volume, tons of targets, and tons of fantasy production. You said a star. Are you sticking with a star in this new Shane Steichen offense? He's been the number one guy for regardless of who the quarterback is and playing phenomenal football. I do like Michael Pittman. I don't know if I would go as far to say he's a star though, but definitely underrated.
I think he is. I think he's a discount version of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he really feels like the young new version of Keenan Allen, where it's just going to be, he gets open so quickly and he's so big, Jay. That's the beauty in Pittman is in a land of 5'8", 160-pound wide receivers, 5'10", he's 6'4", 200-something pounds, and he moves with cat-like quickness. So he's able to separate and win early. He's got a big frame. He presents a massive, massive target option for your quarterback. And he's being fed like an alpha. He's the real deal, Jay. He's the real deal.
Yeah.
I tweeted about him 2 weeks ago, and you look at his Trinity score versus a lot of other players, and it's like, why are we not higher on Michael Pittman Jr.? And I do think that even when JRich comes back, like he's due for a contract. Got to pay him. And I think Indianapolis is going to do just that. I do think he's a budding star. I think he's a discount version of Amon-Ra St. Brown, the new age Keenan Allen. Yeah, there aren't many players I'd rather have than Michael Pittman Jr. So you know what that means, Jay. We're going to play a little game. Would you
I'm going to break your heart.
Michael Pittman, well, you might break my heart, but the people have bagged me up. Michael Pittman Jr. edition, Jay. So let's start this off very easily, right? Let's start this off. George Pickens or Michael Pittman Jr.?
Michael Pittman Jr.
All right. Pretty easy. Christian Watson or Michael Pittman Jr. And let's just assume
Michael Pittman Jr.
Let's assume Watson's hammy's okay. He's healthy and he's okay.
It's still Michael Pittman Jr., but I'm definitely intrigued by this Jordan Love Watson connection after the last few weeks.
All right, Jay. T. Higgins or Michael Pittman Jr.?
So what is the assumption for T. Higgins? Are we saying on the Bengals? Are we saying on a new team?
Right now.
Or just talent? Give me Pittman
right now. DJ Moore or Michael Pittman Jr.?
Michael Pittman Jr.
JSN or MPJ?
Michael Pittman Jr.
Jordan Addison or Michael Pittman Jr.?
Michael Pittman Jr.
I was wondering why I was taking that long. Jalen Waddle or Michael Pittman Jr.?
I'm going to say Jalen Waddle.
Why?
Because I like the offense more. His 10.2 per attempt is still very, very low. Like, basically, Michael Pittman Jr. is Deontay Johnson right now. And I think you said Keenan Allen, but his stats say Deontay Johnson. And that's the biggest problem. But the volume is still so high that it's worth having. And when DJ's getting 160 targets a year, it's worth it. But his 10.2 per reception is still very, very low by the standard of a wide receiver, even if you're comparing him to Amon-Ra and Keenan Allen.
Puka Nacua or Michael Pittman Jr.?
I'm tempted to say Michael Pittman Jr. But I think Puka's a little overrated. He's a great receiver, but he's not getting the volume MPJ is getting.
Okay. Michael Pittman Jr. right now, wide receiver 19, behind JSN, Zay Flowers, Addison, Tank Dell, Puka, Waddle, everybody else that we said. So
yeah, just
by this community crowdsourced ranking system, you should be able to. Would you be fine with tiering off of Devontae Smith to get Michael Pittman Jr. plus? Would you do that? Pittman in a second or Devontae Smith?
I still want Devontae Smith. I like Pittman. If I have him, I'm happy to have him, but he's not a player I see ascending up the board that much. That's the biggest problem, is that even though the production is there, I don't know, man. I'm just not sold on Pittman. In the same ways I haven't been sold on a lot of these guys.
I'm truly asking, what more does he have to do? Let's just
he needs to do more than simply compile his way to numbers, right? He needs to get down the field. He needs to score more touchdowns. And that's the biggest thing for me with Pittman. And it's always been my knock against Amon-Ra, always been the knock against Deontay. If you don't have a high ADOT and you don't get yak, it's difficult to rise up the boards in fantasy football. But he has a ton of volume and is number one on the team, which is great and why you want him. But if you're asking me to take him over a top 5 offense in the NFL, even the number 2, like a Smitty, gets down the field, score touchdowns, and gets volume, you want all of that. And that's why I think Waddle and Smitty are more worth having. But Pittman is still great, will still produce, but will he do that consistently for you going forward?
This is why he's a buy, because there are so many people like JRich who are a little skeptical on whatever it is.
So
offense.
Here's my comparison, right? It is, sorry to interrupt you, but when Deontay Johnson was wide receiver 25, I'm like, okay, he's a buy here because he can ascend to a, wide receiver 2. But when Michael Pittman Jr. is wide receiver 16, wide receiver 17 in the offseason, he's a sell because he's not going to get much higher than that. And he's very close. I'm with you in the sense that like Addison and some of these really young guys shouldn't be over him. But when you get to that spot where you're wide receiver 15, wide receiver 16, and you don't have the talent or production or, I would say like the profile to hit that top 12, hit that top 10, that's when the player becomes a sell for me. And why, you look at some of these players that are very talented, but don't get the volume like a Terry McLaurin, who we know can do it, but he's still wide receiver 30 because he doesn't get the volume. When you have the volume and you don't put up the numbers that you need to be in the top 12, that player is still a sell for me. But I'm with you on what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
Well, and listen, I'm not here to convince you or anybody, right? I'm just laying it out. But your reason why you are hesitant on Pittman is the exact reason why I think people should be trying to acquire him, because there are so many people who are worried about it. And the fact that his floor is this stable this early in his career, with the fluctuation at quarterback, with the changes in the OC and the offense.
It's a system, right?
This to me is all bullish, that he's still, despite the Carson Wentz, Sam Ehlinger experience last year, Matt Ryan or whoever it was, despite the fact that you had a rookie quarterback who threw 5 passes in college and then you had to turn to Gardner Minshew, he's still producing in spite of that. So once there is some consistency with the coach, you got that in Shane, they're going to have a decent pick, right? Don't win too many more, Indianapolis, but to help improve that offensive line, to help bolster the defense, things should continue to rise up for Michael Pittman Jr. I'm a big MPJ fan. I think he's a massive, massive buy right now based on a lot of the things that you just said. And you talked about Terry McLaurin and his lack of targets, his lack of everything. Big goose egg for us yesterday. My goodness, Jay. In this game, if I told you the Miami Dolphins were going to score 45 points on the Commanders, how many yards do you think Sam Howell? Hell, how many times do you think Sam Howell would have thrown the ball pre-game? Pre-game, Miami's going to drop damn near 50.
Might as well just say 50. Like I'm leaning in 45. Might as well just say 50.
Not even half. 23 pass attempts for Sam Howell, 127 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception for old Sam Howell. And we talked about this, Jay, 2 weeks ago. He looks tired, man. I think they wore the kid out. I think they wore him out. His arm. You can't have him throwing 40, 50 times at the start of the season and think he's going to be able to maintain that at the back of the season. He didn't play good. B-Rob got banged up. Terry McLaurin, 0 for 0 for 0. Nothing for Terry McLaurin. Nothing for Logan Thomas. Other side of the ball, Ty Freak did his thing early, got out the game. They just went ahead and pulled Tua again. Third quarter, you're done. Get Mike White in the game. Devon Achane gobbled up all of those garbage time yards and garbage time touchdowns. Doesn't matter. Did it for us in fantasy. Jalen Waddle, a pretty customary, it feels like Jalen Waddle game, 5 for 52, but you would rather have him over Michael Pittman Jr. Are they about to scapegoat Sam Howell? I think they're about to scapegoat Sam Howell. We keep talking about he's done enough to be the quarterback of the future there, or at least that 1-year trial run quarterback.
Yeah.
Jay, I think they're about to scapegoat him. I think Riverboat Ron, his time is up. When he gets canned, Eric Bieniemy's going down with him, and I believe the new coach, the new OC, they're going to want to shop for their own groceries before they start to cook. And I don't know if Sam Howell is going to survive that. What do you think?
So I'm kind of with you. I don't think the coaching staff survives regardless of who they are. And I don't think that Sam Howell survives. But I think the biggest question for us is, have we seen enough of Sam Howell to where we consider rostering him anyways? And, maybe even having him on some rosters or trading for him, even though he's the backup or even though he may not even be on the Washington roster, because I think we've seen enough talent from Sam Howell to where we believe that
he's not going off the roster now. They're not going to trade him.
Probably
Why
not,
would they do
but
that?
But he's a high value backup, right? But would you trade for him even as a backup? And I think that's where I'm kind of leaning is, okay, they draft a quarterback, but if they don't draft a top quarterback, like a top 3 or top 4 quarterback,
picking 4 right now. They're picking 4 right now.
They are picking 4
they will be. I did watch the mock from last night. I if they're picking 4, if they ended the day, 1 would be Caleb.
You got Big J?
You get Drake May at 2 to New England. Marvin
Arizona
Harrison
takes
Jr.
Marv.
at 3 to Arizona. Jaden Daniels, 4 to 1. They're right there. It's right there.
It's if it plays out that way, I wouldn't be shocked at all. And then at that point, Howell's not going to play, right? So I'm with you, but I do think Howell is a valuable asset. You know, he already has almost 3,500 yards, 18 touchdowns. He's thrown the ball 500 times already this season. Like, the arm fatigue could definitely be real because he ain't doing this every single week. He's not. Even at North Carolina, he threw the ball a ton, but he's not throwing the ball this much, and especially against NFL defenses and the way he's getting hit. You know, 3 sacks a week for Sam Howell. You can't do that every week. But I think the more concerning thing is that he's just been so bad at home. At home, they're 1-5 this season. Howell's been absolutely terrible at home. On the road, he's been much better. But yeah, Sam Howell probably not going to survive this season. Do I think he should? Kind of, because this team is bad, right? It's worse than Sam Howell is. But if they have the opportunity to get a quarterback, they should definitely do that.
It's not Sam Howell's fault, bro. Like, we're not. This ain't a. I think what he's done with what he has is, I mean, he's gonna throw for 4,000 yards, Jay. I mean, that's pretty good. He's got 3,500 right now. He's got 5 weeks left to get 500 yards. He's gonna throw for 4,000 yards.
If that arm fatigue don't get him, right?
He's gonna have over 20 touchdown passes, probably 20 interceptions. QBR is poor, but what he's done with this team, this ain't a. That's why I framed it Sam Howell scapegoat. Are they gonna scapegoat him? And maybe scapegoat's not the right word, because if they're picking high enough to take what they believe or perceive to be an elite level quarterback with a new coach, that's what happens. New coach, new quarterback.
Yeah.
Some people are saying Sam Howell to the Falcons, trade him to Atlanta. I
slightly better than Desmond Ridder.
I think it's better. Yeah, I think it's better. It just feels like this is a situation where, are you willing to make this same bet with Sam Howell that you had to make with Jalen Hurts going into 2022? Remember that bet after the 21 season? Going into 2022, Jay, there were mock drafts across the board, the industry, that were like, Eagles need to draft Sam Howell, draft a quarterback in 2022. What they ended up doing was trading for A.J. Brown, went on to the Super Bowl. We know the story from there. But are you willing to make that same bet with Sam Howell that you had to make on Jalen Hurts prior to the start of the 2022 season? I don't think I'm willing to make that bet today.
See, I am. I'm willing to make that bet 100%. And that's where, you talk about, does he stay on the roster? Do they trade him away? Like, I think there's a world where Sam Howell has shown enough on the field. Yes, he makes mistakes, but he's also like the comeback kid. All year long, he's been making big plays late in games. Is he going to win a ton of games? Probably not. But he looks very similar to what we've seen from the Minshew magic. Maybe we're seeing some Howell magic in Washington. And while they're not winning a ton of games, I think he has shown a lot on the field. 65% completion percentage. That's pretty solid in the NFL for a guy who's thrown the ball 500 times in 13 weeks. So I'm hoping that the bye week will be good to Sam Howell. He can rest. He can chill out. He can, hopefully get back on the same page with the receivers, work with the offensive line. It's hard too, right? Not having the bye week till now, no time to kind of reassess and change things. You're just going into the next game plan every single week. So I think it's important to see how he looks in the last 5 weeks of the season.
Okay.
And then go from there. Because I do think he's talented. And I would be willing to make that bet if the cost was low enough. Because to your point about Hurts, he's a phenomenal runner. So he kind of had a higher price tag to some people. But Howell's not so much, but still has 40 carries, 243, and 5 on the ground.
If you were in fantasy during that era, there were way more people anti-Jalen Hurts than pro-Jalen Hurts. Way more people anti-Hurts than pro-Jalen Hurts. I don't know, man. I do think that Washington's just a bad situation. It's a bad situation. It's a bad situation.
But the team isn't bad, though. The team's actually all right, on offense. No, the weapons around him and stuff.
No, they're pretty bad.
If they got an offensive line, they'd be all right.
They're pretty bad,
But he holds
Jay.
the ball too long, too.
Let's talk about another bad team. Jay, what happened to Justin? What's going on in L.A.? What happened to They won 6-0. This is a damn Toronto Blue Jays versus Pittsburgh Pirates game score. It's baseball, right? 6-0, Jay.
6 solo shots, too.
What happened to Herbert?
I don't think anything happened to Herbert. I think Herbert has an issue with Bill Belichick.
What happened
Bill
to LA
Belichick has always played him really well.
When I say Herbert, I mean LA. He's the head man. What happened to LA?
I don't know if anything. I mean, part of it, right, is the Mike Williams injury. Like, we can say, oh, Quentin Johnston this, Quentin Johnston that. We all know he's not that good. Like, we all know this. Yeah, he actually had one of his better weeks, 5 for 52, 7 targets. Justin Herbert makes plays every single week. Now, he has really struggled against Belichick. Really struggled. So it's not like this is a new thing. Him struggling against Belichick is not new. But, I mean, you look at how he's played against Belichick, not great. You look at how Austin Eckler's playing. There's no running game in LA right now, which is kind of on Kellen Moore, right? Like, he's been the architect of the Dallas run game. He's supposed to be getting this run game to where it needs to be. You look at what happened. It's Keenan Allen, and that's it. Right? It's just Keenan Allen. And Keenan Allen, whether he gets 16 targets or 9 targets, they really need other pieces around Justin Herbert. And I don't think it's necessarily because Herbert is the best quarterback in the world. He certainly is not. But it's shown that when they have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, they're a very good offense. And that's why Herbert was a top 5 quarterback pretty much the first 6 weeks of the season. Mike Williams gets hurt, and all of a sudden, they're not very good. I think Kellen Moore is part of the problem. And I think they got to figure things out on offense. But overall, the talent should be there. But you look at drafting Quentin Johnston, Austin Eckler probably not coming back, thank goodness, because he doesn't look very good right now. And the offense not playing very well either.
Richie said he'd pay top dollar to watch Eckler and Kelsey in a foot race right now.
It's bad. It's bad, but it's everything. It's the GM drafting bad players. It's bad coaching from Kellen Moore and Brandon Staley being terrible. They won 6-0. Ray, I was talking to my buddies during this game. And the LA Chargers kicked a field goal. And I said, boys, this game is over. And what do you know? 6-0. 6-0. Game's over. That's it. That's all it took. One field goal. Patriots are terrible. Thank God. Thank God. Please, Drake May.
They are drafting.
But the Chargers they're just bad, man.
Patriots are drafting a quarterback, right? Like, they are drafting a quarterback.
Well, we'll see. Because if they don't get Drake May, do you think they take Jaden Daniels?
I pray. Let me just say this.
I pray he don't go there, right?
I talked about it on the draft video. Objectively, I'm being chat, wake up fam, I need y'all. JRich, I need you. Like, rookie draft starts today. Bill Belichick is the coach. Bill O'Brien is the OC. These are the weapons. They draft Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. How good do you feel?
Awful. I feel mortified for all those kids, every single one of them. Whoever ends up in New England, I feel terrible for them because there's no hope. There's no hope. We've seen it. Mac Jones, is he a terrible quarterback?
Here's a real question. Here's the realest would you rather we've ever done, Jay.
Coach edition.
Marvin Harrison Jr. or any of the quarterbacks in New England. Which one don't you want to see? Like, which one would absolutely nuke those players' value? Is it Marv being paired up with Zappy Mac Jones, or is it Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels being paired up with Bill Belichick? Like, which one of those? Because one of those outcomes is going to happen. Like, right? One of those things are going to happen. Either, well, 3 things could happen. They clean house, which I just don't feel that New England's going to fire Bill Belichick.
Yeah, they don't clean house. He just steps away or resigns or whatever. And there's potential trade to Washington is also on the horizon.
That's the best case scenario. Bill's gone. Ben Johnson comes in and he gets his crew. Cool. But if that doesn't happen, Marv in New England with these quarterbacks are these quarterbacks in New England with Bill Belichick. What is just disaster waiting to happen for fantasy?
I think the correct answer is Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels in New England would be a worst case scenario. But personally, the worst case scenario is 100% Marvin Harrison Jr. If there's any player I want to succeed and be an elite NFL player, it is Marvin Harrison Jr. Loved him from the very beginning. I like Caleb Williams, but I love Marvin Harrison Jr. Because, Ray, do you know how sad I would be to know that one of my favorite receivers is playing on my favorite team and he may be completely ruined by that franchise? It would pain me. It'd break my heart. I would much rather buy a Marvin Harrison Jr. Arizona Cardinals jersey knowing he has a shot to succeed in the NFL than a Patriots one. It would just break my heart.
I honestly think it's Caleb Williams. That's the one I don't want to see in New England. Because
you think Bill would let him paint his fingernails?
Do whatever you want, Caleb. The problem is Jaden Daniels plays within structure. If you watch Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams is backyard ball. Love it to death. I'm USC Trojans fan for life. Very objective, too. He wants to do what he wants to do. And I don't know how that flies with Bill and Bill. It just, those two Bills need to go. The B&B connection, they need to go. They're too damn old. Belichick is too damn old. The game has passed him by. I don't want to see Caleb Williams in New England. For me, I mean, you look at Devontae Parker. I mean, he had 6 for 64. I think the receiver, I think Marv would be fine. I don't think it's ideal, but I think he would be fine.
We don't want Marv to be fine. I think Caleb could be fine in New England. We don't want him to be fine either.
I don't know. I do not know, Jay. All right, last one. Last little topic I had. This is a fun one. This is for you. And we have not talked much about this game because it was actually a decent game. It wasn't as bad as we thought. But Tampa Bay and the Carolina Panthers, Jay. And we didn't get a chance to talk about Frank Wright being fired, but he's out. So usher in the new regime in Carolina. Tepper, my opinion on the situation is this, Jay. The fact that an owner fired a first-year head coach?
First-year
First-year head
12
coach
weeks
before the end of the season. I do believe that there was dissension in the war room, the draft room, for Bryce Young versus Anthony Richardson, C.J. Stroud, right? And it's easy to do that now, revisionist history, seeing how good C.J. Stroud has looked and how bad Bryce Young has played. But for the owner to get rid of the first-year head coach mid-season, what I think happened in Carolina was far worse than we could even imagine. I think there was true dissension at the top with who to draft. I think Frank Wright probably knew that this quarterback doesn't fit what I want to do, but it's my team and I'm going to do what I want to do, right? And it was not conducive to Bryce. This offensive line is bad, Jay. They have a lack of talent on the outside. The running game, not very strong. But in this game versus Tampa Bay, downpour, Carolina had taken the lead in this one. Defense kind of let them down. Bryce Young threw another pick, sacked a bunch of times. But they did something that they rarely did under Frank Wright, which was they leaned on the running game. And Chuba Hubbard paid dividends. 2 touchdowns, 100 yards, 25 carries for Chuba Hubbard. And say what you want about Jonathan Mingo and how well he's played. As a rookie, they gave him an opportunity. Let's see what he can do if we throw him the damn ball. They gave him 10 targets, 6 for 69. And I don't know if y'all watched the game. I watched the game, Jay. Mingo looked pretty good. He's big, he's fast, he's physical. I'm not saying that Jonathan Mingo is some superstar, that Jonathan Mingo is going to be some dominant number 1 wide receiver. But what I am saying is when they gave him an opportunity, he looked good.
Yeah.
Is there any hope for Mingo, for Bryce Young, for this Carolina team and these weapons? Not for this season, because this season is lost. They're going to lose every game. But moving forward, because right now Mingo's free. Like, nobody wants Jonathan Mingo. He's absolutely free. Would you be willing to trade a 3rd rounder for him? Or are you willing to bank on... And I cautioned everybody last year or 2 years ago with Trevor Lawrence coming out of the Urban Meyer situation. Like, don't bail on them yet. This situation is so bad, let's give him another year. You giving Mingo another year?
Not really, right? Because I don't necessarily want a receiver who has to be force-fed the ball to succeed, right?
Well, hold on. It ain't getting targeted is not force-fed. That's the game. Throw him the freaking. That's not being force-fed. He didn't get. It wasn't. He's behind the line.
Hasn't got targets. All these weeks.
Listen, I know you didn't watch the game. They didn't force feed him. They threw him the freaking ball like a regular receiver. But go ahead.
So, okay, but yeah, you're right. I didn't really watch the game that much because this game wasn't really much of a game. But the thing is with Mingo, it's been all these weeks. Now he's getting the ball. It's because, to your point, Tepper is clearly heavily involved in this franchise, whether we like it or not. And so, yeah, Bryce doesn't look like the guy, and I have a lot of concerns about him going forward. But if they're needing to do this to get Mingo the ball, if they bring in more playmakers, is he still going to get the ball? And at which point should I still be buying that asset? And that's why I'm not really there with Mingo. If he puts together a good last month of the season and close out the year good, okay, I may be in at that point a little bit. But, I mean, it took him this long to get the ball at all. Adam Thielen's been great. All of a sudden, he's not getting targets? Do you think Mingo's better than Thielen? Because I don't. Not the way that he's playing.
Bro,
Mingo,
Thielen's
I think,
so
is a
old,
good
man.
receiver.
Like, he's so.
But he was great all year.
But here's the thing, though.
You think it's
football
just
ain't like
he's
Madden,
old,
dog.
tired?
Like, it's just not. We're in week 13, week 14.
Yeah, going
He's
to week 14.
33 years old. He's been bent. Like, it's not, you're not if you watch that game, there's no doubt who looked like the more explosive player was Jonathan Mingo, right? It looks
he's
like
fast,
maybe that's
he's
the guy
big,
you
he's
should get the
strong.
ball to. Get him the ball. Get him the ball. Just see. You don't know if a player's, if you don't ever throw it to him, I don't know if he's good or bad. Getting one target a game.
But the same thing happened with Terrace Marshall last year. Remember that, right? When all of a sudden he started seeing all these targets, people were like, oh, Terrace Marshall, gonna be a thing. Dude was literally cut this season. So, again, Mingo's not getting cut.
They're not cutting Mingo.
They're not cutting him. But is he going to be a top 2 receiver on this team? And even if he is, do we care? Right? Frank Reich clearly was not the answer. And he's not a good coach. He hasn't been a good coach for years. And you look at the archetype of his quarterbacks, they're all 6'4" or taller. Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, right? All these guys, huge quarterbacks. It's obvious he didn't want Bryce Young. It's not his archetype of quarterback. I'm worried about Bryce Young. I'm curious your thoughts on him. And Mingo is a maybe buy if you want to buy some shares. He was a second-round pick, but he basically face-planted this year. So you don't really want that guy. It's historically.
Somebody asked, am I buying Bryce?
No. Just say no. Just say no.
Nah, you can't. No.
You can't
not
look
right.
this bad and be a buy.
Here's the thing that Bryce Young has going for him in Dynasty. This is the thing that he has going for him. People like him and people want him to succeed. Which means, from a value perspective, if something does change in a positive tenor for Bryce, you will see his value spike back up. You will. You will, because people want to see him do well. Even right now, we're just using KTC, right? Like, where's he at? QB 18, ahead of Watson, Russ, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith. Like, right now, you take all those guys right now, you know.
Will Levis.
He's one
Bryce
spot
Young.
behind Jared Goff. One spot behind. He does anything. People want him to be successful. This just feels like a very difficult situation. Their offensive line is bad. They need more receivers. There's just a lot. And they gave up the number
Heaven and
one
earth.
over. Even if they believed in Bryce, could have paired him up with Marv. Could have grabbed Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, right? It's tough pill. Other side of the ball, Tampa Bay won. Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer. He's awesome. You need to stop disrespecting Mike Evans week in and week out. 10 straight seasons of 1,000 yards from Mr. No Yak. Evans is a baller, man. He's a Hall of Fame receiver, should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's dominant again for us in fantasy football. Every year we write him off, and every year he goes out there and just drops 1,000. And I think we'll see more spike weeks before the end of the season because Mayfield is just going to chuck it up and throw it to him every time. Mike Evans is phenomenal. He is awesome. Absolute definition of a league winner in fantasy football this season, Jay. Not much more that I want to talk about from the takeaways from this year. We kind of touched on
Rashad White, 20 carries?
Oh, well,
that was surprising, right?
Well, go ahead, Rashad
and
White.
only mention it because, again, we did not expect Rashad White to see 20 carries. 84 yards, touchdown, still had 3 receptions, 22 yards, second on the team in receiving. It was all Mike Evans and Rashad White in this game, and it got the job done. Again, is that going to happen every week? No, because they're not playing Carolina every week, but it was definitely encouraging. He was the only player other than Chase Edmonds and Devontae Tompkins to get any carries at all. You know, Godwin got a carry, scored a touchdown, Palmer got a carry, but it was all Rashad White, which is great. And I believe Keyshawn Vaughn was a healthy scratch in this game, or was out
Why
in the
are you
contest.
even talking about Keyshawn Vaughn?
Only because he's been getting some work. So it's Rashad White's backfield. So if you got him, I mean, you got to hold him, right? Would you hold him through the offseason too?
I mean, if
be
you're
the running back
contending,
there.
he's getting 25 touches a game. Yeah, I want him. Yes. If I'm not, my team stinks. I'm a rebuilder. I'm trying to ship him to a contender. Can I?
Yeah.
And it's not has nothing to do with I don't think Rashad White's good, but third-year running back, I don't have anything to do with him. My team's not going to be good next year. Why do I want that player on my roster? Can I get some liquidity? Can I get some capital to build for the future? But hell yeah, if you got Rashad White, you're riding him to a chip. He's getting work in the receiving game. He's getting all the work out of the backfield. Chris Godwin, I don't know if he got banged up or what, but didn't do much and didn't do anything in this game. He was out there. I don't know if he got banged up or not. But, I'm riding with Rashad White and Mike Evans all the way to a title, baby.
Yep, they got Packers, Jags, Saints, Panthers for the rest of the year. Or Falcons, Packers, Jags, Saints, Panthers. Wow, 3 divisional games. Or 3 divisional games the rest of the season. That's insane.
Yeah, Cleveland
NFC
versus
South,
the
baby,
Rams.
wide
We
open.
didn't talk about that. Matt Stafford was surgical in that game. Yeah. I thought Joe Flacco, listen.
Not bad.
It looked good to me. I mean, big jump. Kudos
Joe Flacco
to
just
Joe
likes to
Flacco
chuck it,
for
man. Likes to chuck it.
Keeping yourself in mental and physical shape to go out there and launch rockets at 38 years old. Shout out to Joe freaking Flacco, man. That is a name that I did not have on the bingo card at the start of the season, but I thought he played well. Amari Cooper got concussed. He dropped about 3 passes before getting concussed. I mean, I had the over 3.5 receptions. He dropped 3 of them to catch the damn ball, Amari. Kareem Hunt led the team in rushes. They couldn't run the damn ball. Jerome Ford, at least he scored a touchdown and cashed his receptions. Other side of the ball, Puka looked like he banged up his ribs on a crazy catch that he made. Yeah. Looked like he banged up his ribs. Kyron Williams went out there and bell counted up, 21 for 88, another touchdown. Kyron Stud Williams. Puka Nacua, Jay, you're not as
he's back.
You're not as in on old Puka. You were kind of poo-pooing on Puka earlier, man.
I was. Yeah, go
ahead.
But
think he's overrated,
that
huh?
bomb.
Go ahead.
I didn't say overrated.
Yeah,
I just don't know if I would take him over Michael Pittman Jr. 4 for 105, big 70-yard touchdown, 7 targets. Puka is back. We've been kind of waiting for this for a couple weeks. Matt Stafford's really struggled. Obviously, he did deal with some injuries, but Puka had a phenomenal game again this week. You know, I think part of it really was Stafford getting fully healthy, playing well. Doing this against the Browns defense is ridiculous, right? We've talked all year about how the Browns defense is one of the best in the NFL, especially against the pass. Rams absolutely dominated this game from start to finish. Part of it was the fact they had to deal with Joe Flacco on the other end. Obviously not a formidable foe, but Stafford was great and very encouraging going into the playoffs because the Rams have a very favorable fantasy football schedule. So if you have Matt Stafford, next week, he does play the Ravens, which is tough, but to get into the playoffs, Commanders, Saints, Giants. 2 great matchups there for sure with the Commanders and Giants, and the Saints have been getting shredded as well. So there could be a lot of upside for Stafford in the playoffs.
That's the fantasy championship week, right?
It is in New York, though, which kind of blows. It is in New York. So the weather, December, that's on New Year's Eve, right? So probably some snow in that game.
Did you see the, and I'm using air quotes, report that Cooper Kupp's going to retire at the end of the year?
What? Really? I didn't know that. No. I mean, keeps getting hurt.
I'm using air quotes, like big time, that he's going to retire.
If he retired, he's only been active since 2017. That'd be a short career.
I know. Y'all can pry Kyron off my dead hands. Top 5 Dynasty RB, man. Top 5 Dynasty RB, man. I'm not spreading disinformation. I didn't say it.
I don't hate on it.
I didn't say it. There were reports, and I'm not mentioning the person's name because I really do like the individual. He's a hard worker in the fantasy space, big time name.
Hard worker. What is he? A grinder?
Yeah, he grinds, man. He's a first in, first out, first in, last out kind of guy.
So he's white then.
If you saw it on the old X, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I want the
RB9
Rams
right now. Kenneth Walker,
I want the Rams. Kyron Williams is dope. I told y'all 2 years ago when you laughed me out of the building that he was a top 3 running back in the class, but neither here nor there, Jay. Neither here nor there. What do we got? We got a super chat in the building. We got one right here.
Let's go.
Let's get to it right now. 10 teams start 9. I have the 101, the 104. Would you rather Marvin and Daniels or Caleb and Neighbors? I have Tua, AR, Waddle, Ayuk, London, and Terry. Luckily, you do not have to make this decision today, but give me Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jaden Daniels. I want
really?
I want Super Marv.
Really?
Yeah. I sure
I don't
do.
think I'd go
I'd rather
that route.
Marvin Daniels over Caleb and Neighbors.
But I think you're losing value that way. I think if you take Neighbors,
think so.
Neighbors probably gonna be what, top 10? Or would you say top 15 guaranteed?
Top 15. He's not going.
Okay,
he's
top
not
15
top 10.
guaranteed. Okay.
Oh, you're talking about
he's in the range.
Dynasty rank
in the
or
draft.
or NFL draft?
NFL draft.
Probably top 10.
Okay, see, I was going to say top 10. And at that point, if he's top 10, he's probably 16, 15 in Dynasty ranks. He probably is. I don't think he deserves to be there, but he probably will be there.
And get Neighbors Plus just off of the name. Off of the name.
You can. Okay, but what is that delta though? I think it's larger from Caleb to Jaden.
I don't.
That's my point. So I think going from Marv to Neighbors is smaller than going from Caleb to Daniels. That's how I see it right now.
Yeah, I think Daniels is the real deal. I don't think the delta
I
is
like
that
him
big.
too. I like him too, but I think the value
You-
is on Neighbors and is Caleb.
All right. Well, there goes one for Neighbors and Caleb, and I say I'd rather Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jaden Daniels. So there it is. Screw the value. Give me wins. Ray G. Man, what's going on? Y'all are wild. All right, man. All right. That's the show. Week 13 in the books. Well, we got Monday Night Football tonight. Who's playing the Jags? Who's playing that? Who's even playing?
Jacksonville and the Bengals. Yeah.
Listen, man.
No game of consequence here.
We're supposed to have our boy Mitch Carl on to talk and preview and look at the betting stuff, but it's Jake Browning and Jay.
Jacksonville favored by 10, over under 40.
Your boy had some food poisoning, man, over the last couple of days, man.
Ooh.
I came back. I'm going to be vulnerable. Man, I came back from the break, and there were some greens that were still in the fridge from Thanksgiving, some collard greens, and I ate them when I got back from Mexico. Jay, it was a bad decision, man. The collard greens, first of all, greens already do a number on your gut. If you have green, you know after you eat greens, you probably hit in the toilet soon after that. But week and a half old green, what was I doing, man? I mean, my stomach was doing backflips, bro. So we didn't get. I say all that to say, Mitch, I was hurting, man. I legit forgot we were supposed to do that till we started. But make sure you tap on Friday because Mitch will be here and we'll preview some of the top games in the NFL over the weekend. And I got a lot of content coming. I have not done the Trinity stuff, so we're going to start this new thing, Trinity Wars, where I isolate certain players and talk about them. We've got all kind of podcasts. Scott doing his thing, Overreaction Pod, website articles going up. You got stuff going on, Jay. It's a lot of stuff cooking at DD, right?
Yeah, lots of stuff. But yeah, you can check out the Monday Night Football preview. Brandon wrote that up last night. That is on the website for free. So if you want to check out some bets that he has for tonight, assuming we're all going to watch, even though it could be a bad game, Jacksonville favored by 10 after opening at 7.5. Over under is crawling towards the under. Opened at 41.5, now down to 39.5. It's going to be an ugly game, but we're going to watch. If you want to make some bets, check out the website. Free article is up on the website already, so you can go and check that out. But yeah, Ray, lots of good content this week. We're back in the saddle. We're back almost 2 hours. Joe should be happy. It's been good.
Miss y'all, man. John, missed you. Rhonda, come on. Leave me alone, Rhonda. I know better. Ryan, I know. I know, man. I'm Imodiumed up right now because your boy was hurting. Ridley Truther, hey, collard greens 1, Ray G 0. Appreciate y'all being in there. Are we not talking about FSU? We talked about it at the beginning of the show, Jason. Hit the rewind button. We touched on the college football playoffs at the beginning of the show. Appreciate everybody being here, rocking with us. You know we got you covered here on Wake Up. We will see you bright and early Friday morning, so wake y'all asses up. Enjoy Monday Night Football. Stay tapped into the content. I love y'all. Have a great week.